He quickly created distance between the United States and allies like Saudi Arabia and Israel, while simultaneously reaching out to the Ayatollahs in an attempt to revive the JCPOA. The result was the most heinous attack on Jews since the Holocaust. On October 7, 2023, the Iran-backed terrorist group Hamas carried out an unprecedented...
Okay, no, this is where this video goes off the rails. So, Biden had stronger sanctions than Trump. He introduced new ones, right? He introduced new sanctions for human rights abuses when Russia attacked Ukraine. He introduced sanctions for that because Iran was selling them weapons. And he kept all the sanctions that Trump had. He kept all of them. Because the Ayatollahs had been scarred from the ripping up of the JCPOA. That happened 2 years ago. So they were like, if we're going to do this again, you have to remove all sanctions up front. And that was a big ask. And of course, we didn't follow through with that. But was it Biden being nice to the Iranians? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The Iranians had moved further away from compromise from the West. And that was just how things were going to go. Joe Biden simply had different messaging. He's like, we're going to have these strong tariffs, but if you choose to moderate again, then we were open to the JCPOA, right? Funding for their proxies did not rise significantly under Biden.
Of Israeli civilians, firing thousands of rockets while militants and Gazan civilians infiltrated Jewish communities, killing 1,200 people, dragging 250 hostages back to Gaza. Intelligence quickly uncovered Iranian involvement. Funding estimates ranged from $10 million all the way up to $500 million. And IRGC officials met with Hamas leadership just days before the attack. Meanwhile, the Qatari regime provided billions in support.
I believe U.S. intelligence says that the Iranians did not coordinate with October 7th. Hamas wanted to coordinate with them, but they did not in any meaningful way. And U.S. intelligence said that they were surprised that the attack was carried out. That's what best intelligence says. He's saying these broad but true things like, oh, they met with the Iranians. So of course they met with them. Like, they fund them. That doesn't mean that Iranians knew about October 7th. So we need more evidence on that. This is not a comprehensive, fully proven thing that Iran orchestrated the conflict. But even if they did, it wouldn't change that much, right? They completely supported it. They're like, Israel deserved it. I disagree with that. I think that Israel has invited the lack of peace that is apparent against them. I think they have sabotaged peace. Absolutely. So did it make sense that October 7th happened? Of course it made sense.
To Hamas, Qatar, of course, being a close ally of the Iranians. October 7th was masterminded in part by Iran. Israel responded by invading Gaza, determined to retrieve its hostages and finish off Hamas. In April 2024, Iran launched drones and missiles directly at Israel. Israel intercepted all of them. In September 2024, Israel carried out the aptly nicknamed Operation Grim Reaper.
They only launched those strikes after Israel bombed their base in Damascus. Iran has never initiated anything. That's why I highly doubt that they would ever initiate a nuclear war.
Cutting Hezbollah off at the knees. In October 2024, Iran launched even more drones at Israel. Israel responded by striking military infrastructure in Syria. With Hamas on the ropes, Hezbollah crippled, the Syrian regime collapsed completely in December 2024. Israel had effectively devastated nearly all of Iran's proxies sent to destroy it.
I wouldn't call Hamas on the ropes, and I would not call Hezbollah crippled. I would call the Syrian regime absolutely overthrown, but Israel had little to do with that. Their strikes did help, but I think it was going to happen anyways. But Hezbollah is not in ruins in any way, and Hamas is arguably bigger than ever.
Between October 7th and December 2024. But Iran kept building the nuclear weapons. In fact, according to the IAEA, it accelerated its efforts, and despite President Trump's best efforts to negotiate a nuclear deal that would...
No, absolutely not. There's zero evidence, that they ever tried to construct a nuclear weapon since 2003. There's literally zero evidence of that. If they wanted to build a nuclear weapon, they could have done so. They could have done so in 2021 when they had more than enough, hundreds of kilograms of 60% enriched uranium. They've had that since 2021, 2022. They could have easily built one. They have the knowledge. The reason that they enrich to that extent is, I think, to deter attacks against them. I think that they are respecting the religious decree of the Ayatollah that nuclear weapons are against Islamic law, and they're not building one. They just want that deterrence effect of having enriched uranium. But if this was a race to a nuclear bomb, they could have gotten one so easily. Like, so easily by now. They could have had multiple.
And Iran's nuclear development, the Ayatollahs continued to insist on precisely that development, while threatening both Israel and the United States. All of that built toward what happened yesterday, June 13th, 2025. Israel carrying out Operation Rising Lion, dispatching hundreds of fighter jets and drones to strike over 100 nuclear and military targets across Iran. The Natanz enrichment site was hit. The Isfahan conversion plant went up in smoke. The regime's top commanders, Hossein Salami, Mohammad Bagheri, Ghulam Ali Rashid, and most of its top nuclear scientists were all assassinated. And according to Prime Minister Netanyahu, the operation is just beginning. Let's be very clear again. What we are witnessing right now is the consequence of decades of Iranian Islamist ambition colliding with immovable Israeli resolve. Iran has pursued a clear strategy since 1979. Undermine the West, destroy Israel, dominate the Middle East by any means necessary, whether through terror proxies, nuclear blackmail, or open missile warfare. From the 1981 Operation...
They do not want to destroy Israel. Like, Ben Shapiro, when he says Iran wants to destroy Israel, he's making it sound as if they literally want to bomb every square inch of Israel so that the land that in which it sits upon is literally destroyed. What Iran wants is a dissolving of the border of the Green Line, of the border that currently exists between the occupied territories, the contested territories of the Gaza and West Bank, and Israel. They want that border dissolved. That is the destruction of Israel as the Jewish state, as a Zionist entity, as they would call it. That's a one-state solution. They do not say that they want to kill all of the Jews. They afford Jews rights in the Constitution. They just don't want there to be a Jewish state that was created in the way that it was created, which was through massive atrocities and war crimes. Now, I think that Israel should exist, and I think mostly because, not because it keeps Jews safe. It absolutely does not. Jews are way safer in America, because that's what the Palestinians want. The Palestinians want there to be a Jewish state. They do not want a one-state solution because they do not want to live beside the people that, in their mind, have been occupying them. Not because they're super pro-Jewish, obviously they're not, but for just the political reality. Like, Israel is a reality. If you can't accept that, then there's something wrong with your strategy. And Iran just tweeted, I think I saw their tweet this morning, they're like, occupied Haifa. This is a video of strikes hitting occupied Haifa. And it's like, why would you say occupied Haifa? That means that the entire land of Israel is occupied land. I think I know it's in relation to their call for a one-state solution, where Jews and Palestinians theoretically would have equal rights, equal legal protections, but it's just denying reality. The reality that Israel exists when it's recognized by the vast majority of countries, and I believe the vast majority of Arab countries. Not vast majority, but a lot of them.
In Iraq to the Iranian regime's 1990s covert nuclear buildup, from the 2006 war in Lebanon to Obama's 2015 deal, from Trump's Soleimani strike to October 7th, 2023, and now Operation Rising Lion, Israel has not wavered in its belief that it must act before it is too late. And yet the world keeps acting surprised. But here's the truth. Israel is doing what every sovereign nation has the right and the obligation to do. It is defending its citizens. It is preserving its future. And it is sending a message.
No, it is not. Give me the evidence that Iran post-2003 wants to build a nuclear bomb. Their Ayatollah have consistently been against it. It is absolutely not in their interests not only to build a nuclear bomb, because they know the backlash they would get and potential strikes and the war that would start against them would be detrimental, but never mind that, launching a nuclear bomb, that would absolutely destroy everything that they wanted. They want influence. They don't want to be decimated like next week in a nuclear strike. That's what would happen if they launched a bomb. Iran would be gone. There would be a regime change. Everyone would be dead. Like, this idea that Iran wants to literally bomb all of Israel is so unfounded. And that's why this war is unfounded. That's absolutely why this war is unfounded, because it is operating off of the belief that Iran wants to kill everyone in Israel, and that is not true. They want to exert their influence by supporting political parties, terrorists, governments like Hezbollah, Houthis, Hamas, Assad, that support the anti-Israel sort of influence, because their main battle is against the West. Because in their mind, the West has done many bad things in the Middle East. The West has done some bad things in the Middle East, But they think the West wants to literally take over influence in the Middle East, and they don't like that. So they're going to support those proxies.
The tyrants of death cults everywhere. You might threaten, plot, even launch an attack, but if you cross a line, there will be consequences. Every authoritarian regime, from Beijing to Moscow to Pyongyang, is watching. If Israel succeeds in deterring Iran and dismantling its nuclear infrastructure, it reaffirms a basic principle, one President Trump has led with through 2 terms: peace through strength. The free world must have a spine. If the West succumbs to its suicidal empathy, if the international community continues to treat aggressors and defenders as moral equals, this conflict won't end in Iran. It will spread.
Israel is the biggest aggressor in the world right now. It's not even close. And Iran has been a dovish nation for its entire existence, besides the 1979 embassy hostages. That is really the only time when they've been unprovokedly violent, directly. Most of their violence has been through proxies, and they condone that violence, but they don't control those proxies. They don't control their every move. Like, they don't tell them what to do. So, Iran is absolutely less of a war-hawk country than Israel. Iran would never attack Israel. Mostly because it would know it would lose, but secondarily because by religious decree, they're a defensive jihad country. They're not, it would break Islamic law. It would break what the Ayatollah have been saying for 40 years. Like the Iraq-Iran conflict started by Iraq, not Iran. Name any conflict you want. It was not started by Iran. But that's sort of the misconception that is driving this war, that Iran is this war hawk nation, and that's something I fundamentally reject. I don't think Iran wants a broader war in the Middle East. They want proxies like Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis to put pressure on Israel, because Israel stands for something that they don't like. If they wanted to launch some broader attack against Israel, then I guess that they could, but it's more about soft power, not hard power. But yeah, that's it for this video.